while I was standing in line to check in, I blacked out again and went out. And so, everybody at that point got really worried. And when they got me into the ER, into the room, they immediately laid me down. A lady came up behind me and took a staple gun into my head without any anesthesia or anything, and gave me about 5 stitches on top of the crown of my head. And I like, what's going on? He said, you lay down, you're sicker than you think.
Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Y'all already know what time it is. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Whenever you are listening to this episode, I just want to come by and say hello and welcome to Stories of Hope podcast. Now, I know I said it, Happy Tuesday, and for a lot of y'all, it's Taco Tuesday. Ooh, ooh. That's my favorite part, if you haven't guessed by now. But for us here at Miss South Transplant Foundation, we call it Tell Your Story Tuesdays. All right, so before I get started, I would like to introduce myself. So if this is your first time tuning in, welcome, welcome. I'm happy to have you with us on today. And hello, my name is ARTavius VZ, and I am your host and the Digital Communications Coordinator here at Miss South Transplant Foundation. Now, as a couple fun facts about me, I am a 16-year post-kidney transplant recipient, and I am the author of Becoming a Living Testimony, My Journey Through Kidney Disease and How It Blessed My Life, okay? So here on Stories of Hope podcast, I interview and share personal stories of patients, recipients, and donor families with the goal of giving hope, spreading awareness, and encouraging others to becoming a registered organ and tissue donor. So, are y'all ready for today's episode? Now, you know your boy always ready to talk with somebody and hear their story. And today's guest, y'all, I think this is our first liver recipient on the show. So I cannot wait to hear his story. So without any further ado, could you all help me welcome Mr. Joey C. Schting? How you doing, Joey?
I'm doing good, ARTavius. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to finally be able to speak with you. But before we get started into your story, tell us a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you.
Well, I'm approaching 60 rapidly. I don't know if that's a fact you want to know. It's on my mind a lot. But I have 2 children and a beautiful wife, and I've been living in Memphis, Tennessee now for about 22 years this time, and a couple years prior to another stint abroad. So 24 years altogether, and really happy. And we have a good life here in Memphis, and I'm fortunate enough to be about 5 blocks from the very hospital that saved my life. Wow. And so I drive by it every day, and I thank my lucky stars that I ever met those people, and what a wonderful experience it turned out to be. Right. For a long time, it wasn't looking so wonderful, but thanks to organ donation, I'm here talking to you today, and I want to congratulate you on your kidney.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. We'll have a second lease on life, if you will.
Oh, yes. It's definitely a completely different experience than it was before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see what else. I'm a retired FedExer. That's what brought me to Memphis. I was with FedEx when it was FedEx Federal Express, actually, in the early days.
The full name.
Yeah, the full name. And then retired from there after 26 years and a wonderful career. I had just a great time, and I still have lifelong friends from that experience. Really grew up there. So, everything I have in the world, I owe to them for the most part. Also, I'm a avid sports fan, in particularly basketball, although I'm not a big NBA fan anymore. I used to be, but I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to the game. College basketball is more my enjoyment.
Okay, because I often say, what was your favorite team?
Well, back in the day, it was the '86 Celtics. My brother actually played on that team and won a championship ring. Yeah.
So, all right.
That's
Nice.
kind of how I ended up. I didn't have any choice other than to be a basketball fan when I
Right.
from college to his career, and then he coached for 20 more years in the NBA. So
Nice.
I've been
Nice.
a gym rat my whole life, and it's been wonderful, and
Yes.
that's been another blessing in my life too.
Yes.
So
Great.
and then I took a couple years off to get my breath again after that stint at FedEx, and ended up my wife and I talked about a lot of different things we could do, and we ended up buying a trucking company, staying in the transportation field, and it's been quite the challenge. Through I know people think, well, if you're trucking, man, trucks are going everywhere all the time. You ought to be doing good. Well, our business is more flatbed, so it's a little bit more specialized, and takes a different kind of driver to do such.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay.
tarp and strap and all that good stuff. So,
Hmm.
um, and the driver shortage that's plaguing America, and people keep talking about the supply chain issues, and I can tell you, the only thing causing the supply chain issues, not the ports, not the ships, it's the truck drivers. It's the amount of truck drivers there are in the country, and it's basically, a government function of
Yeah.
letting more people drive a truck. And I know it's a crazy profession, but I can tell you guys that I never thought I'd ever be friends with or know, or never thought I would trust them to drive $150,000 piece of equipment around the country, pulling a load worth up to millions of dollars. But if they if they know what they're doing, they're by far better than anybody I've ever met in any industry. I mean, it's
Right.
amazing, and with the right training, anybody can do it.
Right.
I
Right.
actually drove a truck when I was starting out at FedEx. Drove a semi, so
Nice.
yeah, I've kind of seen the story from FedEx from my career from beginning to end. First
Yeah.
driving, then owning, and now employing several drivers. And it's great.
Nice.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
satisfaction, and it's a satisfaction in really helping others. I mean, we could have got out of this business several times, but because we've forged such great relationships with our drivers and our staff, that we think they're family, and we would never want to do anything that would be detrimental to our family, and anything that would affect their livelihoods, right? They
Right. Right.
depend on us. So it's quite a responsibility when you look at it, but it's
Yeah.
one that I take on as really a blessing, again, that
Mhm.
I'm allowed to do this, and to
Yeah.
do it even now, right? I haven't been a liver recipient.
Exactly. That's great. So, great information. So, like I say, you have the floor. Tell us your story.
Well, it's a complicated story, but I can tell you, I first found out I was ill in 2015
Okay.
after I passed out and fallen and hit my head.
Mhm.
And my neighbors, luckily for me, are both doctors. And they came over, husband and wife, and they came over and checked me out. And they said, well, you probably should go to the hospital just to, you might need a stitch or two, but, just to make sure you didn't crack something in your skull, right? So I went, and I got in there. And while I was standing in line to check in, I blacked out again and went out. And so, everybody at that point got really worried. And when they got me into the ER, into the room, they immediately laid me down. A lady came up behind me and took a staple gun into my head without any anesthesia or anything, and gave me about 5 stitches on top of the crown of my head. And I
Oh
like,
my
what's going
God.
on? He said, you lay down, you're sicker than you think. So when I came to again, going up the elevator, I went back out, and I found out I'd lost half the blood in my body because some of the veins, the tiny veins that feed into your liver, had swollen up and busted. And I was bleeding, and I'd been bleeding for about a week. And as one thing I would tell everyone on this call, no matter what your situation is, if you see any signs that are abnormal in anything in your life, especially your bowel movements, your stool, your anything, take note of it, and don't try to rationalize it, which is what I
Right.
did, right? Oh, well, that's probably from this or that's from that.
Right.
When all along I pretty much knew and dreaded the fact that that could be myself bleeding internal. So, a lesson, hope everybody will take to heart, but pay attention to your body.
Right.
Um, So then it became that long road, the heavy road to try to get myself saved, right? Get a transplant, and it was full of many potholes and journeys and tests, and I felt like an astronaut for a few days, man. They were taking me from one room to another, and it was a different kind of test, and somebody was waiting from there taking me somewhere else, and it was a 2 full days in the hospital of just getting tests done to see A, if you could survive a surgery, B, if everything else matched up and everything else was okay, and what they had to look for and the pitfalls and all that kind of stuff. So it was an incredible part, and then that's just the part to try to get qualified
That part.
to even be eligible to get on a list, which is still not a guarantee.
Right. There's definitely some qualifications you got to hit.
Right. And so, I did all that, did everything I was supposed to do. And then came the time to really wait. And so I wasn't on the list yet, but I was kind of in queue. I was in that bottom group just below the list. And if people don't know what the list is, I'll explain it real quick. The list is a ranking of who the next people are in line that will get a transplant of whatever organ it might be, or anything. And so it's very important when you're sliding down the hill towards death. And it's a journey that I know I'll face again one day, but I can tell you it was probably the roughest patch of life I've ever had to endure. And really, as people say, your life flashes before your eyes. Unfortunately, I got to see that for 6 straight months over and over and over again. So anyway, we got through that part, and we got on the list, which was wonderful. And I began to move up the list. Well, you say that's a good thing. Well, that's not such a good thing, because the higher you are on the list means the closer you are to death. And that's a realism that maybe people don't understand either.
Right.
And so that was, the more I wanted to go up the list, because that's closer to having a chance, and it's still a chance, is that the fact I knew I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I was really luckily I was close enough to the hospital where I got my transplant that I could go there often and easily and without great expense, and have treatments usually 2-3 times a week, just to keep me alive, to get me to the point where I could, get in line to get a transplant. So I finally made the list. And that process was interesting. They have a panel that votes on who gets on and who gets off, so for a brief moment in time, whatever the number is, 18 people basically say you're going to live or die. And that was a long, long day. And really, your mind flashes back to really what that phone call meant when they said, yes, you're going to get on the list. And so then that begins another process of the list. Well, the list is a fluid list. I didn't really understand that at first, because I began moving up and I got to like 5th and then 4th. And I'm thinking, all right, this is getting close. It's going to happen, right? And then all of a sudden I was down to 8th again. And I was like, well, how can this happen? And, of course, you have such a great support network at any hospital, but in particular, University of Memphis Hospital, where I was. And so I called my coordinator, and she said, well, when people that are sicker than you come in to the program, they go higher than you if they're sicker than you, kind of is how it works. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to get sicker before I can even have a chance to get better.
Right.
But I kept plugging away. I never lost hope. I turned my life to God and said, your will may be done. And I was just counting on Him to do whatever was going to happen. And you have to accept that at some point. When you get told, when you get to a certain point, they tell you need to get your affairs in order. And those are big words to hear. And it's about to be done. And, I have 2 kids. At that time, they were littler kids. And just the thought of the finality of it all was really overwhelming. I know all transplant patients they go through that. And there are many more, thousands more right now, this minute, living that same thing. So At some point I got back up to like number 3, and I'm a bigger guy. I'm like 6'2" and pretty good size, and so I could handle a larger liver, which was in my favor. Most of the people in front of me were smaller and more petite. So all of a sudden I got a call. Well, actually I was in the hospital. It's kind of a fun story, and I'd gotten you get close to those who are taking care of you. You really do. I mean, I've again forged lifelong relationships with my caregivers, and I'm
Yeah.
what patients do, and because they really become, your
And
lifeline.
right, extended family.
And yeah, absolutely. And still today, I go over and hug them and talk to them, and when I see them, when I have to go get checked up. So, but I was in there to get a blood transfusion to stay alive once again, and an albumin treatment, and the guy that would normally does it, and we had gotten to be really good friends, told me, he said, I can't do it today. He called me on the phone and said, I can't do it today. And I said, what do you mean you can't do it today? And he said, well, there's a problem with registration. I guess if you want to get it done, you got to go to the front, to the registration and check in. I go, come on now, Ben, I've never had to check in. I've been doing this for months now. And so he said, well, meet me in the hallway. So when I walked into the hallway, here he came around the corner, and he was with our living transplant coordinator. And I thought that's kind of odd that he's with him, but they were both great guys, and I'd gotten to be good friends with both of them. And they came over and they said, look, I can't do it today. You need to go up to the front desk and register, and they're going to take care of you from there. And I go, what are you talking about? This is important. I need to get this done. He goes, listen, you got to go to the front desk because you're getting a new liver today. And I mean, we erupted and hugged and danced and celebrated, and
I would have been hollering all through the hall.
Could then to the front desk to get in registered, and then it was like everything happened so fast, it was amazing. But next thing I know, I was waking up and post-op, and my wife's going, I can't believe your eyes. I can't believe your eyes. And I'm like, why? 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 Of course, I couldn't talk. I was intubated. So I'm like, talking to him, I'm thinking,
what's wrong with him? So, are they a different color? What is one of them missing?
Yeah. they're pink. No. She said they are so clear and so blue. Because when your liver malfunctions, your body starts turning yellow, your eyes turn yellow. And she said they are so clear, like you're a newborn baby. And I, of course, teared up and was just happy to wake up. Right, that moment right there was probably the most enjoyable moment of the whole experience. But so then we went on from there, and things went, and I had some complications after that and whatnot. We won't go into all that, but at the end of the day, I came out and I was back to normal and better than before. And it also connected me back to my religious roots and got me connected back to the God and Jesus Christ. And I don't miss church ever again. I haven't missed since, unless I'm sick or COVID or whatever. And I just every day thank my lucky stars that I've been able to have a second chance at life. And I couldn't be more grateful for my donor. I haven't met them yet. I haven't met the family yet, but I hope to one day. I was kind of waiting, the way the process works, it's up to you to reach out. And I was kind of waiting until I got past my 5-year mark for liver transplant patients. That's an important threshold to cross. And I'm almost there. Right. 4 years and almost 6 months now since transplant, and I've never been happier and never been better. The way I feel. So just a wonderful, wonderful blessing, and there's no other way to put it, as a blessing that was bestowed upon me by another family and by their conscience, and hopefully by the Almighty. Right.
Right.
That was His will, that I would have another day to right my wrongs. And and it's been amazing too, because I've had the ability, I had this great need once I got well to reach out to everybody I hadn't talked to for years for whatever reason, and for no in particular reason. Wasn't I'm mad at them, time and space happened.
Right.
But I had this undeniable need to talk to those people again and that in itself has been a blessing. I've
Right.
reconnected with so many friends that we were such good friends for so long, and now it was almost with some of them like we hung up the phone on Monday and picked it up on Tuesday, and we were just back where we were before, and it's been
Right.
really, really great. And I'm just thrilled that it happened, and I'm thrilled that that someone was willing to donate their organs so that I might
Right.
have a different chance, and not just me, but up to 1722 others could
Right.
live from one person donating their
Mhm.
body tissue. So
Right. It's like when you said you just had to reach out to people and just, what I call that checking in. Let me check in with you, see where we at or how you doing. And
mm-hmm.
I actually love that, to be able to reach back out to those people you haven't reached out to in a long time, because you don't know what journey what journey they've been able to take, because you on
Right,
your journey to transplant, and with y'all being away from so long, you don't know what life has thrown them. So it's a good thing to kind of have all that time apart, to be able to have a lot to talk about when you come back
right,
together. So that's
right.
definitely
And
great.
I would have been in a situation where I would have died and never got to talk to him again. And so I
Exactly.
wasn't going to let that go on any longer.
Right. And it's a good
Everybody I'd
thing.
ever loved and known and had relationships with, I had to reach back out and tell them, "Hey, how are you? It's me. Miss
Right.
talking to you, whatever, And
Right.
it's been all the experiences have been fantastic. So
Yes, I know my grandmother used to always say, and it's the cliche which us young folks don't really take, heed to. When you talk to somebody, you never know, that might be your last time talking to them, and we
that's
don't
right.
want to think like that, but in reality, it could be.
You never know.
And right, so it's like hearing you say that makes me want to think of the people that I might want to be reaching out to talk
That's
to.
right. Good,
So
good.
it's definitely a great ritual, I would say, to have. But let's take a quick break, and we're going to do a quick commercial break, and we will be right back. So stay tuned.
I give hope, I give life, I give me. Join us and give life.
4 years ago, someone gave me hope and gave me life by giving me a heart.
25 years ago, someone gave me hope and gave me life. I received a liver that saved my life.
I support organ and tissue donation because 4,000 people in the Mid-South need a life-saving organ.
I can give them hope. I can give them life. I can give me.
You can give life too.
Currently, 4,000 Mid-Southerners are in need of a life-saving transplant. Join Mid-South Transplant Foundation and give hope, give life.
Register to become an organ and tissue donor at midsouth.transplant.org.
All right, and we're back with Mr. Joey C. Schting, and he just shared his amazing story. Now, Joey, we finna get right into it, because it was one thing you said that kind of sparked interest with me, and it was when you said when your wife was talking about how white your eyes was, and right after transplant, and I think about when I woke up from my transplant and how everything was just amazing. Like,
Mhm.
I used to have very like crazy skin, like it was bumped up and everything, but literally after the transplant, it was all gone like an instant.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I had braces, and I had just got my braces off, so I was feeling like a whole model. I was like, it's time for a photo shoot. So
Well, that's great.
yes, it was, oh, so good. But I wanted to ask you, when you first came from your transplant, what was one of the first things that you ate, like when you got up? Because I know I had crazy cravings, because I was with us on dialysis. We have strict diets, so I'm
Right.
not sure how it is for you guys who
Well,
live.
it's somewhat strict as well.
Right.
They really want us to force down the protein.
Right.
And I can, harkens me back to my good friend again that told me I was getting a transplant. He told me one day, he said, "Look, just eat your protein on your plate." He said, "I don't care how you have to do it." He said, "Cut it all up, jam it in your mouth, and once you look like the guy on the hot dog eating contest in New York on the 4th of July.
Right.
That works. He said, that's fine, as long as it gets in your belly. And so nothing tasted good in the beginning to me. Okay. It was strange. And I knew that going in. Some people had been, going through the transfusions and the whatnot, infusions and transfusions, that we would talk together and they'd say, ketchup. I used to love ketchup. Now I can't stand ketchup, crazy stuff like that. And I've noticed that with a few things too. Like I used to love hamburgers and I love steaks, right? Anymore, I can't hardly eat a hamburger or a steak.
Really?
It's just very, very strange. It is. Yeah. And, you start thinking, well, I wonder if my donor didn't like hamburger or steak.
Right.
Mind.
Right.
So, you just deal with it and you move on, and actually it's healthier not to do what I was doing anyway. So
right. Now I think about it. I cannot stand pickles no more. Like I used to love pickles when I was younger. Now as I got older, I'm like, I can't stand pickles. I can't.
That's funny. That's how you change. And I really wasn't for a long time hungry at all. Yeah. And my favorite food at the time was ice.
Right.
Yes. And mainly part of the reason was some of my complications that caused some swelling, so they were trying to limit the amount of fluid I was putting in my body, so they'd always give me a cup of ice. Well, I mean, I'd go through that thing like a beaver through a dam, man. I was on it, and just because that was the only water I was getting.
Right. Take all this thing. Give me another cup. Have another cup.
Cup of ice. Yeah. And of course, I don't know if you know, hospitals have the best ice.
Oh my God! Just like the Sonic ice. Oh.
Yeah, that's it. Sonic ice.
Give me a whole pitcher, 2 pitchers if you can.
That's true.
That was like a 4-course meal. That ice, that ice was so good. Yeah.
I don't have that kind of ice at my house, obviously, but if I find a gas station or somewhere and I see that it's that kind of ice, man, I'm all over it.
Yes, the Route 44 cups. I need all.
That's funny.
Yeah. So now that you've had your transplant, you said going on 5 years, which I cannot wait for you to reach the milestone. What have you been able to do now that you've had your transplant that you couldn't do before?
Well, things that I'll put it this way. Let me frame it this way first. Things I wasn't going to be able to do that I have done since is I got to see my son graduate from high school, and he's now a junior in college and about to graduate college in another year. I got to see my daughter go to high school, and now as a junior and going to graduate high school in another year. And I got to see her get her driver's license, both children, and my daughter, I don't know if that's a blessing or not, but it's working out all right.
Right. Like watch it on the road. Move.
Yeah. In this town too. So anyway, those kinds of moments that I wasn't ever going to have, have the last dance with my daughter, the first dance with my daughter at her wedding, those things go through your mind as you're going through the dying process is really what you have to go through. And those were tough times and tough moments, but to have this chance now to see him continue to thrive and grow and watch them develop and learn. And it's just been magical to me to have that opportunity and that chance to do that I wasn't gonna get without somebody willing to donate an organ. That's all it took. But
exactly, because it definitely shifts your perspective with a lot of things. Because I know for me on dialysis, I was on dialysis for 18 months before my transplant from my biological father, and while you on there, I've witnessed someone who passed on the machine. And going through that, I was a teenager. So it was like going through that, I was like, okay, it shifts your perspective with a lot of things. Like teenagers, we don't normally be thinking about death at 13, 14. No, we don't be thinking. We think about high school and what outfit we're going to wear tomorrow and all of that stuff. Death, we don't really be thinking about stuff like that. But it put it in perspective for me that this could be the rest of your life.
Right.
And going from there, it's like it's very important, I think, to really have a strong community like around you, and to have those people who support you and who can, carry you when you just don't feel like going no more. So I want to shift the perspective in the conversation and go into us as recipients now sharing our stories and the importance of us sharing our stories. So what would you say is important for people to share their stories, whether they're a patient, recipient, or donor family?
Well, I just think it's important to raise awareness so people know what we've gone through, what the recipient or the donating families go through, or the living donator goes through, and really just to raise awareness that we're all real people.
Right.
We're your next door neighbor. We're your son-in-law, right? We're a lot of different people that have touched your lives, and it can happen to any of us at any time. I never ever thought I would be in a situation where I needed to have a liver transplant. I'm sure you never thought you'd have to have a kidney transplant.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, all you can rely on is the gift of others, and that's something where you're so humble and so grateful for those gifts. And I can't think of a better way to think about going into the next life without and being able to think, I saved somebody's life.
Exactly.
I saved somebody's life, maybe more than one.
Right. And it's like it produces
somebody's ability to see,
right.
When you think about it in those terms, it's got to just rock you a different way.
It's like your legacy outlives you.
Absolutely. It lives on, and it lives on in that person and their children and their children. So, I mean, it's still going on in your own family too. So now you've really got two families.
Right. It's just be a blessing for other people.
It's just so important that, and I think this is important to get the information out there about what it's all about too, that, who are these people that get these donations? Because, people start thinking about that and they're like, I don't want some criminal and whatever, right or wrong, but they, people make up these stories in their minds or hear stories, on the internet, who knows what they read, but it's real people. It's real people like you and me that have all of a sudden realize we're going to die. And we didn't want to die. It's not our time to die, but we are going to die. And, through whatever situation got us, whatever disease or whatnot, it doesn't matter. We didn't choose it.
Right.
And so it's really the fact that they need to know that there's real people behind these stories.
Yeah. And that's why
guys with businesses that employ people, that have families, guys with kids and women with children and that have lives and lots of friends and people that rely on them for certain things here and there and yonder. So it's just, they just need to know that it's not just you're donating your organ and some willy-nilly person's going to get it. It's somebody's going to get it that is well deserving, because of the scrutiny process to even get on the list is enough to let you know that only the people that are deserving are going to get it. And and that's not saying everyone shouldn't have access or try to get it. But there's only so many, and the more people know and the more organs that are donated, the more people we can save. There's I forget what I looked at, last number I think I saw currently today, somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000, 12,000 people waiting on a liver, and not all those people are going to make it. There's thousands of them are not going to make it. They have families, they have kids, they have friends and whatnot, and are members of their church and jobs, and it's just, they're real people. We're all real people at the end of the day, and I know whatever organs they want to mine, and they are welcome to them, because I say the same thing. Gift of life, or sight, or whatever, to extend someone's life or to save their life. It's just it's an amazing honor that I see that. It's an honor that I have the ability to do that. to do such a noble thing in my mind. And I can't be more grateful for the hospital staff. Again, I've made lifelong friends with those folks. You know, I'm now having a whole nother family, you know, my hospital family, and all the support that I've seen, you know, pour out from my friends and family. My family didn't have to cook a meal for almost 2 months when I was going through the whole thing, and just it's that's the kind of thing you want to see. But more important, I need people to take it one step further and sign the back of their license, right? That's all you got to do.
Right.
All you got to do.
All it's about, right? But it's definitely like a blessing to just like for us who've had that second chance. It's like life is completely different.
Oh,
like after going through what we went through the first time around is completely different the second time, because now we live life with a purpose.
Yeah.
And we now have a mission, because before we may have been playing or doing some stuff we ain't supposed to be doing, but this time we know we got to eat right, we got to do right, make sure we meet those times to take your medicine, and make sure we get them appointments and everything. So it's like we have to be on top of it and to just be a blessing. Because what I tell people, just imagine if that was you.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you want somebody to do it for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't think it could get any simpler than that. But I was very blessed to have my mom, because me and my mom are the only two in the family who had kidney disease. So it was crazy. But for me, I was very blessed to have her, because she was like my coach. And she's had her, she had her transplant for now 22 years, and I had mine for 16. And it's just to be able to have somebody who understands the journey, who's been through the journey, made it a lot easier for me. And that's why I said it's always very important to have those people in your corner or on your sides who've been through what you've been through, or who know what it's like to go through what you're going through, whether it's kidney disease or whether it's getting a liver or whatever. To have that person who's been down that road gives you some sense of, you know, to be more relaxed. Okay, there's another side to this. It's not, this is what my life revolves around. But I also had to understand, I had a nurse who came up to me when I was at a radio show, and she called in and she said, what you have to realize is everybody is not going to get a kidney or a transplant. So I was like, okay. So now, okay, if you get a kidney or you get a transplant, that's great. If you don't get one, that's great as well. But the thing is, plan your life. I can't stress that enough. Plan your life. For us who was on dialysis, we went to dialysis 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3.5 hours. Okay, last time I checked, it was 7 days in a week. So what are you doing with those other 4 days? So it's all about planning your life. Stop basing your life around your sickness. Go out and do some stuff. Of course, talk to your doctor. Make sure you can do all that. Now, don't be saying ARTavius so I can go live my life. Now, make sure you are approved first. But it's like to have those people is key, I think, to any type of success when it comes to transplant or when it comes to mental health, just to keep you sane while you're going through that.
Exactly. Because there were plenty of times, you know, I want to say, oh, let somebody else have it. I'm done. You know, this is too much, more than I can bear, you know. But, you know, my family kept me going, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can do it, you know. And that made a big difference. The other thing I will say is that I don't take anything for granted anymore. I don't take the smell of a flower. I don't take the sun rising in the morning or setting in the evening or anything. Yeah. Because it all has a new meaning to me. And it's and I think so many, and I know I'd lost that perspective, you know, as you get older or whatever age you are, you know, certain things you take for granted in life, and we shouldn't really take any of it, to be honest. But this is a stark reminder to, you know, in the most extreme way that, you know, I had it all and now I'm going to lose my life, and then to have a second chance is I'm going to count my blessings over and over and over, and I'm going to appreciate everything, every single thing, and I'm going to try and make everyone else's life around me better.
Exactly.
Because I've had a second chance to do it.
Right.
And I appreciate
Yeah,
so much.
I've had people come up to me, why are you so nice? Like, why you just do all of this stuff for people? Like, what's going on? What's your motive? And I'd be like, well, when you've had a second chance at life, you understand that you could have been gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, granted, my dad was my living donor. In some cases, some people have to die before they get their transplant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you want to use every second to the fullest, because as they say, tomorrow ain't promised. We could be good today, gone tomorrow, or good this morning, gone by this evening.
Yeah.
And it's like when it comes to transplants, what I've learned as I got older is transplant isn't like a cure for what you have. It's a treatment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we take lifelong medication. It's a treatment. So even though we have the organs, it's we still have to take medicine every day to make sure everything continues to work properly. But it's all about being grateful for, like I said, the second chance, and showing people a great time and letting them understand and know that you're grateful to have them in your life and happy to be a part of their journey. Like you said, when you called those old friends who you haven't talked to, all of that is important because we never know. And to always be on top of things and to just make somebody feel good just because.
You never know. It could be you next.
Exactly.
You could be saying, "Oh, I wish more people were organ donators," right? But
exactly.
So be an example. Be an example.
Right. And that's exactly why I wanted to create this show, and we bring this show to you guys, is to put a face to these stories and to show people that we are normal people. Normal, everyday people with careers, like you said, with careers, with families, everything. We just happen to fall into the slope of being diagnosed with whatever disease we had that caused us to have to get a transplant or hopefully get one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the more people we can have that understand, the more and better chance that we have for them to be able to register to be a donor. Like they may be able to may not be able to relate to my story, but they might be able to relate to yours. So the more variety of stories we have, the better chance we have into getting somebody to register. Mm-hmm. So in speaking of registering, I want to close it with this, and it's been a great conversation with you, Joey. But to close it out, what would you say to that person or people who are on the fence about becoming a registered organ and tissue donor? What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing I think I'd say is, why not? You know, what's holding you back? And you know, I'm sure there's fear, there's religion, different religions and different practices, but I know all major religions support organ donations. Mm-hmm. And I would just say, what if the tables were turned?
Yeah.
And what if it was you that needed an organ donation? Wouldn't you want to be on my side saying you need to donate your organs? Because we never know, especially like we don't know about cancer or anything else, you know. Mm-hmm. You never know when it might be your turn or somebody you love's turn or a friend of yours' turn. Mm-hmm. They're in need. And then, you know, you will pray that there are so many donors they don't have to worry about it. But everybody does have to worry about it. And thousands are laying in hospitals all across the country tonight, worried about it, worried about whether they're going to wake up tomorrow, next week, see Christmas, mm-hmm. you know. But all it takes is one person to have signed their driver's license and things match up, and boom, tomorrow they're all to the first day of the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. And imagine how that can feel to the family of the people donating, and you know, to the family of the people you just saved. It's a no lose situation, and if there was a win-win situation, this is it.
Right.
And so I just implore people to think about your common man and do what you know you think is best, and do what I think we're called to do, and that's be nice to your fellow mankind, and to, if you have a chance to save a life, if you saw someone drowning in a river, would you not throw an oar? Would you not throw a paddle? I mean, you'd do something, right? So people are dying every day, and then all you got to do is sign the back of your card and be done with it. And you really will impact not just the recipient's life, but their whole surrounding network of friends and family. And I know that just friends and family of mine that were on the fence before, until I got sick and they found out more about the whole process. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're all in. We're all in."
Right.
And I think that's what people need to know, that there's real people behind these stories, and that we, I'm getting choked up, but we need you donors out there to keep giving hope to people like us and the people that are laying in the hospitals tonight, and their families, are not so happy this Christmas.
Yeah. Well, and there you have it, guys. That is it for this episode. Mr. Joey, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your amazing story. I hope and pray that I pray and hope that your story reach the people or the person that it needs to reach to help them to become a registered organ and tissue donor. So again, thank you so much, sir. So for those of you who are watching us live on YouTube, be sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and leave us a comment below and let us know what you think of this episode. What was your takeaway from Mr. Joey's story? If you are listening on a podcast episode or podcast platform, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can be sure to get every update when we post another episode. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think as well. We would love to hear your response. And for those of you who are in the tri-state area, that is Mississippi, Tennessee, or Arkansas, you can go to our website at www.midsouthtransplant.org, and you will see a red button that says register, and you can click that and sign up to become a registered donor. If you are outside of the tri-state area, you can go to registerme.org, and you just fill out that form, put in your state and city, and you'll be registered for your state. So I hope you guys got something from this episode. I really had a blast talking to Mr. Joey. And before we leave, I got to tell you, no matter the circumstances or what other people may say about you, always believe in yourself, because I know I believe in you. Until next time, you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday. And y'all have a great one. Take care.